Questions for reflection. Notice the contrast between how David treats Saul and how Saul treats David. Saul tried to kill David. He was afraid of him and threatened by him. But David treats Saul with respect, compassion, and mercy. As we see in today's excerpt in our first reading, appointed for Holy Mass, David would not raise his hand against God's anointed. Acting in this way, David exhibits the holiness which should be reflected in all who serve the Lord. After all, they reflect the very character of the Lord whom they profess to serve. This is what the psalmist David reminds us of in our response. He sings of the very character of the Lord. The Lord forgives and forgets. He heals and redeems. He shows tender mercy and is slow to anger and rich in mercy. This call to live as the image of God is a call to everyone who seeks to follow Him. Though sin impedes our ability to respond, grace provides what we need to do so. When people speak of how we treat others, would they say of us that we are rich in mercy, slow to anger, and that we forgive and forget? In the 15th chapter of his first letter to the Christians in the Church of Corinth, Paul develops one of his most important themes, that Christ is the new Adam, the one through whom the new creation begins. In his sacred humanity, we see the pattern for the new way in which we are called to live our lives. Through the Paschal mystery, his conception, saving life, passion, death, and resurrection, we are forgiven and freed from sin and death, incapacitated by grace to live as sons in the Son. St. Paul writes, "As we have borne the likeness of the earthly man, so we shall bear the likeness of the heavenly one." That likeness is being restored as we cooperate with grace. The redemption will be complete when we, like the Lord, are raised from the dead. Paragraph 22 of their Constitution on the Church, the Fathers of the Second Vatican Council write these profound words, and I quote that paragraph. "The truth is that only in the mystery of the incarnate Word does the mystery of man take on light. For Adam, the first man, was a figure of him who was to come, namely Christ the Lord. Christ, the final Adam, by the revelation of the mystery of the Father and His love, fully reveals man to man himself and makes his supreme calling clear." The document continues, "To the sons of Adam, he restores the divine likeness which had been disfigured from the first sin onward. Since human nature as he assumed it was not annulled, by that very fact, it has been raised up to a divine dignity." End quote. Wow. Redemption is about more than the salvation of our soul. It's about the salvation and transformation of the whole person. Do we believe this? The theme continues in St. Luke's account of the Beatitudes, the Sermon on the Mount. The glossary of the Catechism of the Catholic Church gives us this summary of the Beatitudes. And I quote, "Beatitudes, the teachings of Jesus in the Sermon on the Mount on the meaning and way to true happiness. These teachings reflect the promises made to the chosen people since Abraham. They portray the countenance of Christ and describe His charity or love. Moreover, by shedding light on the actions and attitudes characteristic of the Christian life, they describe the vocation of all the faithful." End quote. That includes you and me. How are we doing?